Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Sheikh Imran Hosein. We thank you for giving us this opportunity to ask you a few questions on behalf of Kalam TV and Mimbar.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. I'm very happy, Hosein, to be here with you, and I pray that Allah may bless this interview. Thank you.
I mean, so my first question, Sheikh Imran, is Islam is supposed to be a religion that can help society. And in what way would the society benefit from Islam, given our current economic situation?
Well, the first thing that we Muslims must remember, and we must remind the rest of mankind, is that Islam did not come to the world for the first time with Prophet Muhammad, Allah's blessing be upon him. No, the religion that came with Jesus, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, that was also Islam. And so the religion which came with Moses, Nabi Musa alayhi salam, that was also Islam. And so to the religion which came with Abraham, Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, that's also Islam. So at its substance, religion is one, only one truth, one religion. And we do not have a monopoly on that religion. That's the first thing Muslims must remember. Secondly, while religion is a unity at the level of substance, there is multiplicity at the level of form. The flowers in the garden don't all have the same color. But there is no superiority and inferiority. All the prophets have equal status with Allah. He it is who decides who is superior and who is inferior. We do not. لا نفرق بين أحد من رسل. We do not distinguish between the prophets of Allah. He decides who is superior and who is inferior. And so we accept all the different forms of religion, the different laws which came. And that religion has something to offer to mankind. It's only one religion. And what it has to offer to mankind is a society which will be a healthy society. A society in which people can live with happiness and contentment and peace and enjoy life. That's what the truth came to deliver to mankind. A society in which people can rise to achieve their potential. The beauty of thought to ascend and ascend and ascend and extend the frontiers of knowledge, the spiritual elevation. All of these things are there in that one truth which came from the Lord God, and we Muslims do not have a monopoly on it. The Christian can do it, the Jew can do it. There is also truth in Hinduism. And our duty is to recognize that truth which is there in Hinduism. When we look at truth now in the economy, you can very well understand that there is, in the truth which came from the Lord God, there is no oppression in it. There is no compatibility at all between truth and oppression. And an economy which is unjust, an economy which is exploitative, an economy which is oppressive, an economy in which one part of the world is not only poor, but permanently poor. That's oppression. But I don't think they teach this at the great universities of the world who produce the 25 greatest economists of this age. That an economy in which the poor are now permanently poor, it's oppression. An economy in which the rich are now permanently rich is oppression. An economy in which wealth no longer circulates through the economy is a sick economy. And the truth has come to the world to deliver a healthy economy in which wealth will circulate through the economy.
So my second question now, Sheikh Imran, is many people, they look at the Muslim community and they see problems within it. They wonder why, if Islam is a religion of peace, why is it that there are so much violence, for example, is prevailing? within the Muslim community throughout the world. So could you please elaborate on this?
I think that perhaps those who are seeing the world of Islam as a world of violence need to make an appointment with an eye specialist, because they have eyes and they don't really see. The world of Islam today is the victim of the greatest oppression and violence. If you look at the number of refugees in the world today, they are Muslims most of all. If you look at the people who are being killed in unjust wars, the overwhelming majority of them are Muslims. And then you come to me to ask me why are Muslims oppressive? I say to you, go and get an appointment with an eye specialist. You're blind to come to me with such an impertinent question. Yes, I notice that amongst my people, there are some who perhaps drink some kind of a tonic that comes from Santa Claus. And then they fight wars for the oppressor, on behalf of the oppressor. And these people, I don't want to use too violent language for them, but the Santa Claus gives them the weapons, and Santa Claus gives them the money and the visas and so on. And then they go and they fight wars for Santa Claus, and they commit acts of oppression and so on. And I have to answer for that. I mean, this is impertinence. You should ask Santa Claus, why is he doing that? They've been doing that in Syria for so long. And now they're planning some more fireworks in Syria. And all the, excuse my language, all the jackasses in the world would then say, why is this happening? Why are Muslims behaving like this? We must go against Saddam. We must go for Assad. Get him, because look what he's doing. It's not Santa Claus. It's not Assad who is doing all the chemical attacks. Go ask Santa Claus the answer, and he will tell you why is it that all of these things are taking place in an otherwise world of Islam, which is under monstrous attack all around, and is being oppressed as never before in history.
Do you agree, Sheikh Imran, that one of the main problems that Muslims have today is that they have little knowledge of their own religion? And if so, could you please elaborate on it? And how, could you also tell us how we can tackle this issue?
It is without doubt that we live today in a world which is unlike any other world there's ever been. It's a different world. It's a unique world. And it is not possible to understand the reality of the world today without the Quran. Our Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, is not the first to have spoken about an end time, a last age. Others came before him, and they also spoke about the same thing. We are living in that end time now. And if you have the Quran, and you cannot recognize the reality of the world today, then you are betraying the Quran. This is our biggest problem of all. That the world of Islamic scholarship, and it gives me no pleasure in saying this, it is very painful for me to say this, the world of Islamic scholarship out there, and in particular those who control the masajid and who close the doors of the masjid to me. I'm not allowed to go and preach in the masjid. I'm not allowed to go and teach in the masjid. These little boys out there, they are the ones who have betrayed the religion. The Maulanas and the Muftis who they act on behalf, they are the ones who have not gone to the Quran to find and to search in the Quran for that which explains the political reality of the world today, the economic reality of the world today of permanent poverty, the monetary reality of the world today, such strange things happening in the world of money. And tomorrow is going to be cryptocurrencies. And then after that is going to be one currency for all of mankind. Do they do the job of going to the Quran and the Hadith, the Sunnah, to seek to understand the reality of the world today and then to explain it to their people? No. Sadly so. They have failed and failed miserably. And even though I teach and I teach and I teach and I teach these last 20, 25 years, they're not prepared to accept. So what do we do? Answer: when a people fail, Allah brings another people. So we are working now in a very humble way to try to create a new generation of scholars of Islam who will have the capacity and the backbone to go to the Quran, to search in the Quran for that which explains our economic reality, the predicament that today faces Pakistan. The government of Pakistan, and we have to commend them, really. The government of Pakistan has decided we want to take our people out of this miserable poverty and destitution. Praise be to Allah for that government. How to do it? How to do it? First of all, before you search for how to get out, understand how did they get in there? Who put them there? That is the economic reality of the world today. So we need a new generation of scholars of Islam. Our Darul Uloom, who are producing our ulama, they call themselves ulama, but our Darul Uloom, may Allah bless them for the sincerity in their hearts, their dedication to Islam. But this education is woefully inadequate. That is our big problem. We need a new generation of scholars of Islam trained differently. And it is to the credit of my teacher, may Allah bless him, Maulana Dr. Muhammad Fadlur Rahman Ansari, who migrated from India to Pakistan when Pakistan came into being, and established his center in Karachi, that I went and I studied there at the Alimia Institute of Islamic Studies, which was established in memory of his teacher, Maulana Muhammad Abdul Alim Siddiqui, rahimahullah. It was there that I studied. And you could see the difference in scholarship from whatever humble work I have been doing in economics, in monetary economics, and how do I turn to the Quran to explain the difference between this and what is coming out today out of the Darul Uloom. Our biggest problem is here, and we hope and pray that we may succeed, inshallah, in building a new generation of scholars of Islam.
We're going to speak now about the cult of scholars. We're living now in a type of Hollywood idol worship where we see that this type of worship has seeped over to what we can refer to as the Islamic industry. Mm-hmm. So you have now people that offer Islamic workshops. People attend, they have to pay, and we're supposed to reach a certain level of iman after, once we've attended the workshop. Mm-hmm. One of the consequences of such attitude is blind following. We have now scholars that give fatwas, religious rulings, and people follow them on the sole basis that they see them as scholars. What's your analysis on this?
Well, first of all, let us speak about offering knowledge of Islam, and you have to pay for it. Mm-hmm. I have found that, and it is something very sad for me to share with you, that there are so many masajid here in Britain, for example, who close their doors on me. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the masjid would agree to host a lecture, and then they call me to say cancelled. Yes. So as a consequence of this, we now have no option. We have to go search for a hall. And when we find a hall, lots of people will come because they want to learn from us. So where do we get the money to pay for the hall? For this reason, we said, okay, let us put a registration fee of only £5. This is not preaching Islam to rake in money. No. £5. And we're using this money to pay the cost of rental of the hall.
To cover expenses.
That's right.
Of course.
It's not commercial Islam.
Yes, indeed.
And if we get more money than we need to pay, we keep this for the next time. This is different from that commercial version. So let me just make this plain and clear. On that day when the masajid opened their doors for me, we don't need to do this. We could go in the masjid. The masjid is a place to preach Islam. The floor of the masjid, not the university hall for me. No, sir, the floor of the masjid. We live in an age in which everything is being commercialized. And so religion is also being commercialized. And in the commercial world, you can be fired any time if you're unsuitable for the market. So for this reason, my teacher, when I was saying goodbye to him, and I'm leaving Pakistan to go back to Trinidad, he hugged me and he said to me, Imran, this hand is better than this hand. Meaning, if you go back to Trinidad and you get a job as an imam, or as a director of Islamic studies in an institute or so, then he who pays the piper calls the tune. And you now have to preach Islam, tailor it according to the cut that they require. And if you give a khutbah and they don't like it, they fire you.
Yes.
So for this reason, he wanted me to get a job and earn my livelihood independently. So that's why I went back and I got a job. I was appointed in the foreign ministry. But when I went to work in the foreign ministry, I realized that this is not my calling. A diplomat has to go this way and that way in accordance with his government, not me. I go this way. So eventually I was able, alhamdulillah, I thank Allah, to earn my livelihood as a writer. But it took me 25 years to earn my livelihood as a writer. What the scholars of Islam should do is to try to earn their livelihood independently, so that you don't have to be worried that you'll be fired if you preach this way or that way. Then you will earn credibility. People will look to see who are those scholars who have integrity and who are the commercial scholars of Islam. And if you have integrity, if you stand up for the truth, eventually the people will recognize that this is genuine and that is fake. And then eventually it is that which is genuine, that which is the truth, which must eventually prevail. This is the road that people must look to see. Who are those scholars of Islam who don't weave and turn in this way and that way, whichever way the wind is. If the wind is blowing to Washington, then they go this way. The wind is blowing that way, they go that way, to see where they can get their butter. No, look for those scholars of Islam who establish credentials of integrity and courage, and who, when you see a spade, they call a spade, regardless of the price they have to pay. And that is the way we can get out of the present state in which we are today.
What does the rise of racism and xenophobia across Europe signify, considering the European heritage?
There is no rise of racism in Europe and in the West. No, it's always been there, from day one. Western civilization emerged in history in a manner comparable to the sun rising from the west. A sun rising from the west has to be a false sunrise. But yet it's pretending to be the true sunrise. Everybody knows that the sun rises from the east. Even here in London, it rises from the east. So a sun rising from the west, maintaining that we are the true sunrise, and every sunrise that came before us is now obsolete, moribund, and fit for the museums of history. That's what Western civilization's greatest historian, or rather one of their greatest historians, that's what he said about Western civilization. His name was Arnold Toynbee. And his book, marvelously written book, in the 1940s, I believe, I advised my audience, my listening audience, to get a copy of it. Civilization on Trial. In that book, this is what he said, that this civilization has come as the best that mankind has ever experienced in history. It is not going to be ever surpassed, and all previous civilizations are now obsolete and moribund and fit for the museums of history. That's arrogance. Not only are you the best as a civilization, but you're racially the best. You are the chosen people of the Lord God. But this claim to a birthright of superiority is not only arrogance, it's poison. It corrupts you. And so racism is embedded in the modern Western world. It was not there in Britain before the West emerged, when Britain was a part of Christendom. No, it was not there. It was when Britain ceased to be Christendom, ceased to be a Christian people, and now became a secular Western people. It is only then that this virus of racism, this arrogance of racial superiority, this xenophobic civilization, it's only then that it appeared. But this cannot last forever. No. There's a big war which is coming. They're provoking that war now with Russia. When that war takes place, the Lord God says in the Quran that He's going to destroy. He's going to destroy all those who ought to be destroyed. And this is particularly applicable to modern Western civilization. I think the state of Israel is also looking forward to the destruction of Western civilization, so that the coast will be clear after the destruction of the West for Israel to rule the world without any rivals. How do we respond to the racism of the West? Our people have suffered from that racism. One of the most eloquent voices to have emerged from the world of Islam in exposing that arrogant racism and in struggling against it was the voice of Malcolm X. Yes. And with much less eloquence, much less courage and integrity, the way to respond to the arrogant racism of the West is to follow in the footsteps of Malcolm X. Yes.
How do you think that Europeans are reacting today towards the shift in global power?
There are many scholars in Europe and in the United States whose eyes are opening and who are understanding that this civilization is being taken for a ride. Oh yes. It is necessary for all those who want to uphold the truth in the world, whether you be a Hindu or a Buddhist or a Jew or a Christian or a Muslim or even someone who is secular in thought. We speak to the people of India, yes. We speak to the people of China. We speak to the people of the United States. Wherever you are in the world and you stand for truth and you oppose oppression, we say to you, let's come together. And we are one. It is something wonderful to behold that every day that passes by, the evidence increases more and more that large numbers of scholars in the Western world, their eyes are opening and they are coming forward and they're standing up with courage and integrity, and it's something marvelous to behold. I think there is a day tomorrow when we can come together and hold hands together in solidarity as we confront the oppressors of the world.
The Turkish lira is now falling off a cliff following what we can describe as US imposed economic sanctions. What's your analysis on what is currently happening, and is there a willingness from external powers to shut down Turkey, or is it all a mise en scène to further a given agenda?
I will only respond to one part of your question. The other part I choose to remain silent. So let them guess. I will speak only about the lira. That's all. The President of the Republic of Turkey, Recep Erdogan, is a student and disciple of one of the greatest Turkish leaders of the modern age. Najmuddin Erbakan was his name. He died, I think, in about 10-20 years ago. And one of the things which made him great, Najmuddin Erbakan, was that he recognized the gold dinar and silver dirham as the road for Turkish survival. He recognized the monetary system, therefore, which was now prevailing in the world, which is now prevailing in the world, to be one which is fraught with danger, and that survival required us to move from the existing monetary system to that monetary system which used to be there before and which is there in the Quran. Dinar is in the Quran and dirham is in the Quran. And it is something surprising, therefore, that Erbakan, who is the student and disciple Erdogan, who is the student and disciple of Erbakan, should be responding in the way that he is responding. I call it more than simply mysterious and mystifying. Oh yes, that he knows that the way to resolve the problem today with the Turkish lira, he knows, is to do what Argentina did when Argentina was in a similar situation, to do what Serbia did when Serbia was in a similar situation of a free fall of the currency, and that is to introduce gold and silver as money in the market. He knows that. Instead of doing what can resolve the problem, he's asking the people to take your sterling pounds and your euros and your whatever hard currency you have and change that into liras. Does he not know that as the lira continues to fall in value and he cannot stop it, the people will be losing their wealth? So he's inviting the Turkish people to throw away their wealth. It seems to me to be rather foolish of someone who many people are asking, is this the new leader of the world of Islam? Is this the man who's going to lead the world of Islam now? And I say, even a schoolboy could do a better job than what he's doing.
I'm going to switch now to Israel. Israel in the past, at the very least, they attempted to portray themselves as upholding human rights, although they were blatantly contradicting it. But now it seems that they're openly preaching military savagery, and they're proclaiming it out loud. What could one read in this shift or change of strategy on Israel's part?
When Britain was launching its mighty effort to establish Pax Britannica, it took them quite some time. Britain was an imperial power which used the point of a sword to pursue her objectives. And Britain committed atrocities unspeakable. My forefathers had to crawl on the dust before the British master as an act of submission and subservience to him. My forefathers had to crawl on the dust before them. Good? They don't want to remember that now. When the United States was embarking on the process of establishing Pax Americana, they exterminated the American Indians like cockroaches. Ethnic cleansing. And they don't want to remember that now. Okay? Anytime a ruling state is embarking upon the effort to establish itself as a ruling state in this modern age, this is the way it's behaved. Israel is now poised to try, at least they want to attempt, to replace the United States of America as the next ruling state. This is not taught in Oxford University. Oxford University will fire you if you speak even a whisper about this. This is not taught at Harvard and at Yale and at Stanford and Temple University and MIT and the Sorbonne. If you even whisper this, they'll fire you. Right. This is actually the movement of history. That from our eschatological perspective, and every day the evidence mounts that we are correct, that Israel wants to replace the United States of America with a Pax Judaica that will replace Pax Americana. And hence it follows that in the same way that Britain acted so brutally, mercilessly, shamelessly to establish herself as Pax Britannica, in the same way that the United States acted so brutally in exterminating the American Indians like cockroaches, and yet going to church on a Sunday morning and pretending that you are a civilized people. Similarly, the same madness, the same satanic madness is manifesting itself today with Israel.
Do you think that the rise of Trump was inevitable? There seems to be a large segment of the US population that supports President Trump and his policies, even though the media are trying to demonize him and portray him in negative terms. So what's your take on this?
I learned something from Christian eschatology when I went to Moscow. The Russian Orthodox Christian eschatologist taught me what I did not know before. We have it here in Islam, but I didn't remember it. But they taught me that even though something has been ordained to take place, with prayer, it can be postponed. I was of the considered opinion that the Great War, the Great Nuclear War, would take place in 2016, 2 years ago. I was expecting that war. I had several dreams upon it. And I made it known around the world. I made it known that yes, I think the Great War is coming, and it'll come sometime in 2016. But I also prayed to Allah, and many others prayed to Allah, that it may be postponed for a while. If Hillary Clinton had won the elections in November 2016, there would be no doubt that we would have already had the Great War, or we would be on the doorstep of the Great War since 2016. And most of mankind would have been destroyed already. This is what they wanted. But they planned their plans, and Allah plans His plans. And Allah took a man who is not the perfect man at all. Oh yes, Donald Trump is most certainly not a perfect man. He's done many bad things as well. But the one thing that Trump has done is that the war has not taken place in the last 2 years. No matter who you are and you're my critic, you can't deny the fact that the war has not taken place as yet. We say that is a divine act of response to the prayers of our people, praying. And I would to say further, not only were they surprised that Trump won the election despite everything they did, to prevent him. Oh yes, they did everything they could possibly do to prevent him from winning the election. And yet he won the election. My conclusion is that so long as Trump is the President of the United States, they cannot trust him, so they cannot ignite the Great War. It may be ignited by accident, but they are not going to take the chance while he is president. So now in the next 2 years that are left before the next general elections in the United States, I anticipate that they're going to do everything they can possibly do to get rid of him. One of the ways, of course, is the JFK way, but the other way is to get him impeached. Yes, and if they fail to get him impeached, then they face the possibility, which is the mother of all horrors for them, that he be re-elected for another 4 years, and that's the end of the world for them. So the fact that Trump is the United States president does not mean that we endorse him as a good Muslim and going to heaven. Stop that stupidness. The fact that Trump is the president of the United States, for us, indicates that the war, the great war with Russia, is being postponed, and we thank Allah for that.
Women are now being allowed to drive in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And is Mohammed bin Salman's initiatives towards modernizing the mentalities in the kingdom, is it a genuine act, or is it just a mere act of propaganda to divert attention from the ongoing war in Yemen, which is known to us today as the world's worst humanitarian crisis? And also, could you explain how such liberal propaganda is being used to hide an anti-liberal political agenda?
Well, that's a number of questions in one, you know, Muhammad. I mean, I'm Hosein.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. About whether women should be allowed to drive a car. Well, they're all driving cars. My wife is driving a car. Is a question for the Mufti. Let him answer that question. So whether Saudi Arabia prevents women from driving, or whether Saudi Arabia allows women to drive, is not a matter of any consequence for me, really. I don't think I need to pay any attention to that. No. But the war in Yemen is a different matter. Oh yes. Our Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, he prayed and he made dua. And in his dua he asked for something for Sham, which is of course part of Syria today, and Yemen. His words were, Allahumma barik lana fi Shamina wa Yemenina. O Allah, grant us blessings in our Sham, Syria, and our Yemen. And it is particularly interesting that the two places for which he asks barakah are the two places which are now in fire. Why is it that at the same time both places are in fire, and who it is who is kindling the fire and keeping the fire flowing? Same Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is at the heart of the attack on Syria. Saudi Arabia is leading the attack on Yemen. When he made the statement, Allahumma barik lana fi Shamina wa Yemenina, they asked him, and he's in Medina, at that time it was called Yathrib. They asked him, what about our Najd? They didn't ask about a Najd which is on the moon, or in Venus, or in Mars. No. They asked him about our Najd, but our critics simply forget the word our. Yes, they have a little bit of problem with their memories, our critics. Yeah. Our Najd. If you are in Hijaz, in Mecca, and you ask a question about our Najd, and you do not recognize that it is next door to Hijaz, right there in the Arabian Peninsula, you should buy a one-way ticket to the moon. You have bogus scholarship. You should be dismissed. No one should bother about you anymore. I mean, that is stupidity of the highest order. Where have your sense gone? Don't you have any sense in your head? And yet you dare to come to us to preach to us? A PhD in stupidity? Even a schoolboy would know. If you are in Mecca or in Medina and you ask about our Najd, it's not a Najd in Iraq, you foolish man. I'm sorry for my violent language. But they deserve it with their bogus scholarship. Mm-hmm. If you are in Medina and you ask about our Najd, then it is next door. Just next door is our Najd. That's not our Najd. That's not our Najd. This is our Najd here.
Referring
yes,
to
this is. I'm sorry I have to devote so much time to this, because those ignorant scholars out there with their bogus scholarship, they don't want to listen. They don't want to listen. Yes. So when the people ask, what about our Najd, referring of course to the Najd which is next door, he said, he was silent. And when they repeated the question, then he replied. Why was he silent? Why did he not reply? Because there's something bothering him. That's why. That's why. Tell that to that bogus scholarship out there, which is insisting that Najd is somewhere in Iraq. Then when he finally replied, he said from Najd, pointing to the east, not north and south, to the east. Pointing to the east, meaning next door. That Najd next door in Arabia, not one in Iraq. He said from there, earthquakes. From there, fitna. From there, Qarn al-Shaitan, the satanic age from there. And that is precisely what the present regime in Saudi Arabia is doing. Distinguished scholars of Islam, for whom I have so much respect. Yes, I have enormous respect for Sheikh Safar al-Hawali. Yes, and for Sheikh Salman al-Awda. These are learned scholars of Islam who earn the respect of this ummah. These are distinguished scholars of Islam. These are men of integrity. From what I know of them, from their academic credentials, being Sunni or Shia or Salafi or Sufi or so on, that does not come into play when it comes to scholarship. And these are learned scholars of Islam, and they're in jail, in prison in Saudi Arabia. Shame on you, shame on you, shame on you, Saudi Arabia. Shame on that government. And whoever supports that government, shame on you as well. Yes, shame on you as well. May Allah punish you for what you're doing, because you are terrorizing the scholars of Islam. They might even be killed, they might even be executed, these learned scholars of Islam. And I have to raise my voice for my brother Safar, for my brother Salman. They are my brothers. I don't know, maybe they may be a little younger than me, they may be the same age, but we are brothers. We are scholars of Islam, and if they did that to you today, they'll do that to me tomorrow. That is an evil regime, and whoever supports that regime should be thrown out of the place. We don't want to see your face. If you're supporting that regime, get out and close the door behind you. We don't want to see you.
Sheikh Imran, I will just take this opportunity to divert from my actual questions. And we know that Saudi Arabia today is holding, I would say, according to some report I read, the greatest number of scholars in the Muslim world. What can we...
So I didn't get that question.
In Saudi Arabia, there is a huge number of Islamic scholars held in jails.
Yes, I just answered that.
Yeah, but what can we do as individuals?
You can do what I've just done.
Yes.
That's all I can do at this time.
There's
nothing more yet. To raise my voice and protest of what Saudi Arabia is doing, and protest against all those ignorant people who are supporting that Saudi regime. Get out, we don't want to see your face, close the door behind you.
Sheikh Imran, ideologies that may have seemed appealing to some segments of certain populations, sometimes nations, have come and gone. Marxism is dead, communism is dead, capitalism is dead, or on its way to dying, and in a way Islamism is dead. What new hope is there for people to hold on to today?
I have never come across the term Islamism, and I am 76 years of age. I never studied it in any book. I don't know what it means, Islamism. And when my enemies concoct in their, their laboratories, these curious terms, I don't use them. Like a Muslim cleric. I say, I'm not going to touch my tongue with that rubbish that comes from you. No. When I have terminology which comes from the Lord God in the Quran, I stay with that terminology. Now, insofar as Marxism is concerned, communism is concerned, socialism is concerned, we don't throw out and dismiss all of these things, just, throw away the baby with the bathwater. No, no, no. Dajjal is the one who brought communism into being. And he used the Soviet Union in order to attempt to destroy Orthodox Christian faith in Russia, to destroy Russia's spiritual heart. That was his purpose. But Dajjal is very clever. He's not going to come with an attack which is totally false. He will give you 95% of dazzling truth in order to slip in the 5% of poison. So there is in Marxist thought, there is in communism, those parts of that economic policy and system and philosophy which resonates in a positive way with us. So when we meet the Marxist thinker, I have had Marxist thinkers as my teachers. Yeah. And they were very pleased with me. They liked me, yeah. Even though they were Marxists. One of the men who taught me economics, international economics, was a man named Bernard Cord. And he was Marxist. And he loved me very much, yes. So there's a part of Marxist thought, there's a part of socialist thought which resonates positively with us. So we don't dismiss everything. We try to search to see what is there which is positive, and we identify with the positive. And we dismiss that which is negative. If they had done that, Venezuela would not be in the mess which it is today. Hugo Chavez is a man for whom I have tremendous admiration. Hugo Chavez. Ahmadi Najad, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, is a wonderful person. I met with him in Iran. These are wonderful people.
You mean the former?
The former president.
Okay.
But they didn't know. They didn't know what is the market. What is a free and a fair market? Hugo Chavez doesn't know that. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad doesn't know that. What is a free and a fair market? And what does the truth say about a free and a fair market? Truth is in Judaism, it's there in Christianity, it's there in Islam. Hinduism knows about a free and a fair market. It is the free and the fair market which has to be restored. And the Marxist is railing against the corrupted market. We agree with the Marxist in his analysis of the defects of the market. We do not agree with him on how to respond to it. So let us not dismiss all the isms which came before. And let us concentrate on locating that which is positive, with which we can agree in all these dispensations, in all these isms, and bring people together on a common platform to try to restore a free and a fair market.
Sheikh Imran, next question. Muslims and non-Muslim alike, they live in a state of confusion. It's come to a point where people don't believe anything anymore, and I refer here to what they hear in the news. We know that, or they know that most of what they hear is most probably going to be lies, fabrications. We now hear of fake news, even though the concept is as old as the printing press, if not even older. What guidance can Islam offer to such Muslims and non-Muslims alike in these times of confusion?
My experience has been, and at the age of 76, I do have some experience in the world, and I have traveled, I've been blessed to travel extensively, is that yes, you are correct, that there's a large part of the world of Islam out there which is asleep. And part of it is misguided. But the good news, which warms my heart, is that as I travel in the world, and now that we have the internet, we're able to go over all the walls and roadblocks that they established to prevent our word from reaching the people. I am amazed of how our young people in particular, our young people are able to grasp the truth and recognize the reality of the world today. And in some instances, they listen to me and then they advance my thought. And then I look to say, MashaAllah, look at that. Look at this thinker, this young man who is thinking. And nowhere, I have found it, yes, amongst, in France, the Arabs in France who have migrated from Algeria and Morocco and Tunisia and so on, and they've been flocking to me. I have found from amongst them this cutting-edge capacity for thinking. And to my surprise, I found native Frenchmen, French people, who have become my students and who are also capable of this same capacity to think in depth and recognize the truth. I used to see it also in Malaysia and in Indonesia, but not as sharp as in France. And now that I don't know about the United States, because I left the United States 2 weeks after 9/11, and I never set foot again over there. Yeah, but over the last 1 year, I have been visiting Britain. I came here 1 year ago to see my grandson, because I was 75 years of age, and my grandson was going to be 4. I had never seen him, and I was afraid I might die without ever seeing my grandson. I didn't know what the British government would do if I were to set foot in Britain. I'd never come to Britain for about 15 years or more. So I took a chance. I took a chance to come so I could see my grandson. And many people, of course, criticized me for that. Never mind, I wanted to see my grandson. But when I came to Britain 1 year ago, it was something absolutely amazing. I never even dreamed that it was possible. I found that enormous appetite amongst the young people of Britain, the young Muslims in Britain, born here, an enormous appetite to understand the reality of the world today. And they were flocking to me from all corners. And more than that, I found the scholars of Islam, who were graduates of the Darul Uloom in this country. That while the schoolboys who manage the masajid, the management committee, while they were closing the doors of the masjid for me, there were so many imams, so many maulanas, so many scholars who are flocking to me, who want the knowledge of what is the reality of the world today. They were impressed by the methodology that was taught to me, how to use the Quran, how to study the Quran to be able to understand the world today. Its political reality, its economic reality, its monetary reality. And this is a good sign that while one part out there is asleep and another part is misguided, there is another part which is fresh, young, vigorous, and exciting in their thirst for this knowledge. That's a good sign.
Sheikh Imran, it's becoming evident that humanity will soon be exposed to numerous ecological disasters. We see today on our seashores full-grown adult whales dying from suffocations as a result of because of plastic. What does this say about this consumerist mechanism that envelops all developed countries? And what solutions can Islam offer to alleviate such ecological disasters?
It is not possible to save the world. No. If people choose to remain asleep, they will dance to every tune that the Dajjal plays. Gog and Magog will take them, like the Pied Piper of Hamelin, to their destruction. And that's where the overwhelming majority of mankind are today. They have eyes and yet cannot see. And you can do what you want, you cannot change them. Since the ship is sinking, that's right. And you cannot prevent it from sinking. And when it sinks, it will take all on board to their destruction. What do? This is an accurate description of the world today. A ship which is sinking, it cannot be prevented from sinking. And when it sinks, all on board are going to be destroyed. What do? The answer is, and this is not my analogy, this is Fidel Castro. Fidel Castro used this analogy, and I loved it. He said, the best thing to do is get off the ship. And when you get off the ship, you can then advise others and assist others to get off the ship. Getting off the ship means leaving the cities of the modern age, the modern world, and seeking refuge, particularly for your wives and children, in the countryside. Producing your own food, becoming self-sufficient in food, having your own source of water, your meat, your milk, and so on. And remaining in small communities. That is the way to respond to the present ecological crisis.
Sheikh Imran, last question. How significant is Imran Khan's victory in the latest Pakistan's general election?
I like that question. Yes, he was a good cricketer. We share the same name, Imran. He was a good cricketer, a good captain. He fought as a cricketer. He fought courageously with determination. If you can stay at the wicket and fight and fight and fight when your team is in a crisis and take all the thunderbolts that a Freddie Truman might send against you, okay, and keep your wicket and stay there until you either draw the match or you win the game, then you are a good captain. And that's how he led from the front. And he had the capacity to see which member of his team was not playing. Yeah, which one? So I don't consider him to be a professional politician. And I say, thank God. And the Pakistani people are also saying, thank God, that we don't have a politician now as our prime minister. A cricketer will do a better job, or has the possibility of doing a better job than that whole jamaat of corrupted politicians and professional politicians. Go your way, you fail. This cricketer might succeed where all of you have failed. However, having said that, and that we look positively now to the possibility that Pakistan may have a different experience now under this government, there is a warning to be delivered. And I'm going to deliver this warning on Saturday, inshallah, when I speak on the Quran, Pakistan's monetary and economic predicament, and the new Imran Khan's government. And that is, you have to be able to recognize that secular scholarship coming out of the universities have not only failed in the past, but will continue to fail. Even if you are in the top 25 scholars of the world of economic thought. You know, Santa Claus always sends these lists of the top 25 here. So, even if you have those scholars, they failed in the past and they'll still fail. You cannot succeed with them. Or what about the Maulanas? Unfortunately, the world of Islamic scholarship also is inadequate. The training they got, the education they got is inadequate. But the bottom line is you cannot succeed, Imran Khan, where every single government before you failed. You cannot succeed unless you go to the Quran. If you don't believe me, then go ahead, and 5 years from now we'll see where you are. If you are to go to the Quran, to locate that guidance in the Quran with which to explain and to respond to the predicament you have today, then you need that scholarship. You need that kind of scholarship. And that was the scholarship that came from my teacher, Maulana Dr. Muhammad Fazlur Rahman Ansari, and which I inherited. And we are always ready to assist the government. Yes, thank you.
Sheikh Imran, Jazakumullah khair. We thank you for your time. And it's been a great pleasure having you here. And
you're most welcome. Yes, thank you.
We look forward to the next time.
Inshallah.
And
Okay.
to Saturday's lecture as well.
Inshallah. Okay. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum.